But anyways, let's move into the final topic. We're talking about the New York Knicks. It's been a very light Knicks season. Felt like last year we were talking about them every single week. But this year we were talking about the New York Knicks and their draft picks. Right now they currently sit 9th in the NBA draft lottery, or they stand with odds. So right now they are projected to get the 9th pick if everything plays out the same way. And the Knicks do have some promising pieces. Frank has been on and off this year. He's shown some nice spots. Kristaps, obviously one of the best big men when healthy. That's a big if, though, on him. You look at Enes Kanter has been nice coming over. Tim Hardaway Jr. got paid. They have Trey Burke, who's popped off every now and then. But this team still needs extra pieces. And looking at a top 10 pick for this team, you got to look at which prospects are going to bolster them for the future. Looking at this team, what do you think is at least a position that they need to address for both of you guys? Let's not talk about players yet, but at least positions. What do you think is one aspect this team needs to add?
Well, I mean, for me, it's got to be – I almost go for almost a small forward or a wing type player because I look at this team, it's like last year you got Frank to be your point guard of the future, whether he's playing the 2 right now and you're going to move him over to the 1 for the future. But the big thing is – you've got Kristaps down low. I'm going with a guy who's going to be there too, where it's like I'm not necessarily going to go with a point guard like a Colin Sexton or a Shai Gilgeous because I don't need that. I just got Frank last year. I'm going to go with a small forward type player because that's probably who's going to be there. That's around the type of players that'll be at 9, a Kevin Knox, a Mikal Bridges, a Miles Bridges. So that's what I'm targeting at 9 if I'm the Knicks.
So you're based off of what you think will be there availability-wise.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what they need the most.
Well, it's the Knicks are in a weird spot to where if they're at 9, it's are you going to are you going to dive and take a reach for me? Are you going to go take a big that might be a reach around
just
a
answer
Robert
what do they
Williams?
need.
I would say small forward. That was my answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I was looking for. Because it sounded like you were basing more off what you have your projection
I would go
on your
small
mock
forward, and it would be either Mikal or Miles. So that's what I'm going with.
Do you agree with small forward?
Yeah, I think that's by far their biggest need because Tim Hardaway Jr. can't really play the 3 legitimately. And like Ricky said, with Frank splitting time at the 2, it kind of shifts your lineup in a way that you're not really in a great setup. So you need a 3, and it's the question mark if you believe Frank's development. I do. I think he will be the future 1. So yeah, I think that I'm looking at this team going, you either need a 5 or a 3.
You're writing one off the board.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think Trey Burke has been serviceable. You can bring him back. You still got Moutier under contract next year. I don't know that he's necessarily going to develop into anything more than a 6-man role. But still, I think between those 3 guys, I would let that play for a full year. In a year where you're not just actively trying to lose games. Yeah, I think that sort of hurts some guys. But I think with those 3 guys, another year under their belt, you'll see, and you'll have a better idea of what to do.
You'll have Courtney Lee as well at the 2 spot as well because he's been having a nice season.
Yeah,
and
I'm surprised he didn't get traded.
Yeah,
honestly.
I think he's got 2 more years left on that contract.
Yeah, he's under contract next year and the following.
Yeah, and then Joe has 2 more years, unfortunately, with that terrible contract that signed him to. But again, I think that you can't really write one off the table. Okay. Again, I know you drafted Frank with the idea of him being your future point guard. But the one thing that he came out and showed, not only when he was a prospect, but also this year so far, is that defensive side to him. However, I don't know if that offensive side will ever be there. And if it is, to what extent will it be there? I don't think he's going to be a 15-point scorer ever in his career. He might reach up to 13, maybe 12. I think he might be a decent facilitator. I think the biggest thing that you need to do, and maybe he's a little bit of a combo guard, maybe he runs the point when your true point guard's off, but I'm not banking on a guy in Trey Burke who, again, he's playing that position right now because we're tanking. He's having this high usage because Kristaps is out. How is Trey Burke and Kristaps gonna mesh together? I think that you can't really write one off the board because if you have a facilitator and you have a person who could score at that guard position, and then you can also at least pair him with a guy in Frank who is a big, lanky, great defender. I think that you can have a dangerous guard duo, and then pairing that with Kristaps and Enes, if they do bring Enes back, could be absolutely fantastic. And Tim Hardaway, if he's not able to play the 3, you could still look to him coming off the bench, or what? I mean, you're paying him $18 million, but again, this is a team that you're going to have to hit the cap for at some point. Again, I mean, I'm not saying. I think that Tim Hardaway Jr. though is not, again, he's fairly young, but again, I don't know if you really need to be putting him into your future plans. Like, I would rather have Enos. I would rather have Kristaps. I would rather have Frank. And I would rather have a one, if we draft a one, be the 4 on the floor. And maybe you try to fit Tim at the 3 again, and maybe having a true facilitator will open him up a little bit more. But, again, I don't know if that is really going to be the right move. Again, 3 can be on the board, but let's look at the players that are going to be available there. Looking at our mock drafts, last time we did a mock draft, the Knicks were at 8. I had them taking Trae Young. Ricky, you had them taking Mikal Bridges, and Dave, you had them taking Mikal Bridges as well. However, Trae Young was off the board for both of your mock drafts, and Mikal was off the board for me because the Kings took him a position before, but Miles was on the board. So let's pose the question here. Colin Sexton, Trae Young, and Miles Bridges are on the board for the Knicks at 9. We'll say Mikal's off the board. He's already been drafted, and let's just say for some reason Trae Young has been drafted as well. Those 3 are on the board. Which player are you going with? Are you going to try to fit that 3 role with Miles Bridges? Are you going to go with a player in Trae Young or Colin Sexton who could be a true number 1 for the future?
You said Mikal's off the board?
Mikal's off the board.
Mikal will be off by the 9th
I'm
pick,
going
100%.
So I'm picking basically between Sexton, Young, and
Sexton, Young, and Miles. Those are you can throw it if you have a wild card too of like a Wendell Carter.
If Young's available at 9, I go Trae Young. Like, to me, because of the ceiling that I can see of the potential for Trae Young, I do not pass on him. However, for me, I don't think he's going to be there at 9. But if he is, that's who you go with. And the interesting thing with, like you were saying, you would go point guard in the first round. I don't necessarily think they have to, because if you're not sold on Frank, I'm looking at an article from dailyknicks.com, and one guy they bring up who I loved, he's not going to be a first-round talent, but they can take him in the second round, is a Tony Carr from Penn State.
Well, let's focus on the first round
first.
I
know, but I mean, like, that's another thing that plays into what they do. So for me, if Trae Young is there, like you just said, I take Trae Young. But if it's not Trae Young, and most mock drafts have it to where it's going to be either the 2 Bridges or like a Wendell Carter or something, with Sexton also being there, I would go with one of the Bridges and then maybe get a point guard in the second.
Who gives a shit about the other mock drafts? Look at the 3 that we did.
Well, no,
we're doing it right here.
Even ours, none of us had Trae Young going to 9 overall.
Well, I didn't because the Knicks took him at 8.
But what I'm saying is, like, I don't think Trae Young gets to that point. So I think it's going to be, I'm going to take one of the Bridges at 9, and if I want to deal with a point guard, I'll do it in the second round.
Well, let's look at this though. Let's look at and let's just put them at 9 because they're at 9 right now, and we'll widen this out because they can move up, they can win the lottery too. That's possible, and they could lose more games. They can even fall out of the top 10. But let's nail them into 9 right now. Number 1, Luka or Ayton's going. Number 2, Luka or Ayton's going. Yeah. So then Memphis. Porter Jr. is most likely going to be off, or we can throw in
Triple J.
Triple J. We can also throw in Bagley.
Yep.
Orlando, we can take off, possibly Trae Young there.
That's the earliest I could see him going, yeah.
But then we can go MPJ, JJJ, or Bagley as well. Then Dallas, Bombo, starts to put his name in there. MPJ still sticks around. Any of those guys. Sacramento, and then Bridges comes back around as well. Both of them. Probably, I would say Mikal goes there. 7, if Bamba's still around, I think Cleveland could possibly go with Mo Bamba. They could even trade that pick. And then 8, the Bridges might be off by then, and you might have to go with a Colin Sexton at that point. So again, it's difficult to really nail in what's going to happen at 9. But if both of the Bridges are gone, because Chicago needs a 3, Sacramento needs a 3, even Orlando could possibly need a 3 as well. I don't think
if Cleveland
Mikal or Miles are going to go there.
Done with LeBron, like they could take a 3. It's entirely possible.
If both of the Bridges are off the board at 9, then to me the shift in thought process goes: do we go with the next available 3, which would be Kevin Knox?
Yep.
Or do I start thinking about what Dave said? I need a big, someone who can play the 5. I'm either going with a Wendell Carter or a Robert Williams, who would probably be the next 2 bigs on the board available.
Yeah.
It could be a stretch, but like
Robert Williams is Wendell Carter.
That's what I think of, and it's like, to me, I feel like point guard at 9 after just drafting Frank. Like, if you draft a point guard this year, you're saying to Frank, you're not our future point guard.
Yeah, you're saying you're our future too.
Exactly.
Which I don't think is a big deal.
And I don't think you have to make that decision with hey, let's go with this point guard, when there's so many other players you can take to fill out a team at a different position. It's like, if you believe Frank's going to be your future 1, don't fucking go away from that after 1 year.
Well,
go into that, give him another year to develop into it, and go with a different position. I would probably take, if it was Knox, Carter, or Williams, I'd probably then go with what Dave was saying. Oh, let's move to the 5 discussion and take a Wendell Carter.
Well, again, just with the Frank thing, again, if they believe he's their future 1,
right, then
obviously don't take a 1. Yeah. But looking at what Frank has brought this year, and again, you have to take in how he's going to progress. I just don't think he's going to be a 1 in the NBA. I think that he could possibly be a spot-up shooter on the outside. He's got a decent stroke. We've seen that come up a little bit. It's not consistent yet, but again, you're going to think that's going to come around at some point. But I just don't see the passing ability yet for him to be a 1 in the NBA. And again, if he's able to develop that passing ability, and he's able to develop that court vision, then he's going to be a disgusting 1 with his size and his speed. But then again, it's just there's a lot for him to make up until he's a 1 in the NBA. And if there's a guy like Colin Sexton there who's already a 1 in the NBA, without a doubt in my mind, has that killer instinct that I think is kind of lacking on this New York team, it's going to be something that is going to be hard for the New York Knicks to pass up on. Because we mentioned the Bridges being off. Sexton's still going to be available. We talked about Trae Young possibly going at 4, but Sexton's still going to be available at that 9 spot. And if Sexton's available, you're going to pair him with Frank, Kristaps, Enes. Disgusting in my mind.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's been moving up a lot of people's boards really quickly.
That's a good point.
I'm starting to get turned on this one. I think you're convinced me that it really does depend on the roll of the dice. If there is no, I think Knox is clearly a notch below the Bridges as far as threes are concerned. I know Miles might be more of a 4, but he's a tweener. He's a wing. I agree. Knox is a step below, so I might then reconsider it. I mean, Wendell Carter would be a nice add. I think that he could pair well with KP. I think that he's done a lot of the dirty work for his team this year. Obviously, the second big on his team under Bagley, but at the same time, he has a good shot, good defensively. He is able to keep the area around the basket well guarded. I'm just at that point. You're right. If Bridges are gone, and I'm down between Wendell and a couple point guards, that kind of becomes spicy then, because I think that there's the case to move for a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that high up. I think there is a case to go with Wendell Carter. Trae Young's just, I don't know, man. If he's gone, he's gone, whatever. But if you're giving me the options, I want to go full in on Ricky.
If he's there at 9, take him.
Why not? Why not just give it a shot? And you could pair, one of the best shooting point guards we've seen in recent history coming out of college.
Already a good passer.
With Frank being the 2 to cover up for him defensively.
That's what I'm saying.
And those two together, yes, you're going to force Tim Hardaway Jr. to play out of position at the 3, but that's not the end of the world. I think that you can work around that.
Who's going to be the biggest star, though? Out of Tim Hardaway Jr., Frank, and Trae Young, who's going to be the biggest star? I mean, it's Trae Young.
It's Trae Young
already. Make Tim Hardaway play the 3.
It's the money. I don't care about fit. It's are you going to win games? I mean, that's but I mean, that's what you're trying to do here, Sean. You're trying to win games.
Again, but Tim Hardaway is a thing where yes, you paid him $18 million, but paying him $18 million doesn't mean that he should be.
He's your future.
Not even that, but he should be in the starting lineup. You should be able to move around these players into the best fit. Again, I'm not saying Tim Hardaway has been bad this year, but again, you want to be able to win games. You have to be able to what's doing best for your team and have the right fit on your floor. So if Tim Hardaway's coming off the bench and still playing 30 minutes, I don't think that's a big deal. But you want to have the best rotations out there, and maybe when Frank gets tired, you're able to switch him and Trae Young out, and you have a offensive 1-2
core basically. Yeah. You're saying at the guard.
Just coming off the bench, I think is a negative stereotype. But being a 6-man is still a major part. Yeah, and I mean, Lou Williams has made a name from it. Jamal Crawford's made a name from it. And again, I don't think anyone believes Tim Hardaway is going to be a star in the NBA. And being paid $18 million doesn't mean you should be a starter in the NBA. It means that you deserve $18 million to be on an NBA team because you could still serve a valuable role to that team. But it doesn't mean that at any fucking reason that you should be a fucking starter. Look at Timofey as well.
And here's another thing I think about when it comes to this draft with the Knicks is no matter who you take, we'll just lock them in at 9 because we don't know what's going to happen with the lottery and stuff.
Yeah, we'll open it up in a little bit.
No matter who you take there, are they going to make you a playoff team? Probably not. And the thing that I'm doing is the thing that I would do if I was a GM or the owner is I'm looking forward. All right, and the thing where I'm kind of almost in my head, almost being I'm not shutting the point guard out completely now in the first round is looking to next year's draft, where the top 2 point guards that people are projecting are either going to be Quickly, who's committed to Kentucky,
Yep.
or Darius Garland, who's committed to Vandy. Those are the top 2 guys right now. Of course, anything can happen in a college season. Or are you going to bank on, all right, let's get that Colin Sexton now, and then maybe we can have a possibility to get a guy like a Ball next year. What if we're 1-2 and we can get a Zion or a RJ Barrett in the draft next year? Because I think the Knicks aren't going to be at a point where it's like we're in the playoffs.
Why is that,
year.
though? I mean, right now this team is, again, 11th in the East, and it's not great. But again, this team, when KP was healthy, wasn't bad on the floor. I mean, they weren't a great team, but they still were in the playoff hunt when KP was healthy.
Free agency, they can bring stuff in for free agency. With the draft alone, I don't know if it's enough to push them to a playoff team. If they get LeBron, then yeah, they're a playoff team.
I agree with you. I'm not saying LeBron, though. One thing that
you just pointed free agency. I was like, I got to throw that out.
One thing that Jeff Hornacek, I was going to actually take the conversation in that direction.
Okay.
Jeff Hornacek said that the inclusion of the triangle last year drove away free agents from the New York Knicks.
Well, so now the triangle's gone.
Yeah, now being away from the triangle, now having that extra year, now having KP, now having that possibility of playing with Trae Young. That NBA players have come out, and Susan LeBron as an example, have come out and said that they would want to play with him. Again, that could be something that's very enticing for free agency. And again, we see a ton of wings in the NBA. Again, we see a ton of point guards as well. But if you have a 5 lockdown in Enos, if you have a 4 lockdown in Kristaps, you have a 2 lockdown in Frank, and you're able to address the 1 or 3 in the draft and then throw money at one of those other positions to fill that hole, I think this Knicks team could possibly be, again, an Eastern Conference that might be weakened with LeBron gone. Fuck, they could be a playoff team.
And for me personally, around that area,
like an 8 seed? I think that's crazy.
Knick fans don't get too excited because I'm hoping that the Bulls wise up and draft him at 8 if that's where we're at. But like, if Trae Young's gone because he's the only prospect that we've mentioned that would be a for sure, I'm going ahead and taking him at 9 if he's there. But I would love to get a Mikal Bridges just because of what he can bring to a team defensively. And like, he's not no slouch offensively as well, where it's like, you know what? Give me that, and I don't even care if I draft that 3. And then I know people will be like, well, if you get LeBron, you're getting a 3 as well. No, you get LeBron, you're getting everything. You're getting every position.
You get 1 through 5,
player.
baby.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I'm a Knick fan, that's the player that I would really want is a Mikal Bridges because of what he can bring to the Knicks defensively. Because as a Bulls fan, I want him on the Bulls. I want him to be a Bulls pick.
Jake was saying that he wants him on the 76ers too. So
everyone should want Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, I think this is a sexy pick in Mikal Bridges. I mean, again, he's a modern day wing.
But
and
like you said, he goes as early as 5. We're thinking right now, and that's where I'm like, I don't think there's any circumstance where the Knicks get him at 9.
Well, let's broaden this out because again, this is the NBA lottery. Anything can happen. So we can open this up to any pick. What prospects best fit them? Obviously, we've mentioned Mikal, we've mentioned Miles. Are there any other players that are in this top 3, in this top 5, that could possibly really put the Knicks into, really draw the Knicks' attention? Or we talked about Bagley before with nice fits for Bagley. Bagley on the Knicks could be nice with him and KP. Possibly getting a Mo Bamba with a rim protector there.
Mo Bamba would be kind of crazy.
Or
the length down low.
Or hey, maybe if they get the number 1 pick, hello, Luka Doncic, be exciting.
Yeah, dude. I'm just saying, like the only guys I don't like fit-wise for them would be, and that even sounds stupid, like Jaren Jackson. No, not Jaren. Michael Porter. Michael Porter is a question mark because I just don't, his health the way it is, and if he comes back, if he's more of a 4 than a 3, like it forces KP to play in a position he doesn't love to play.
Well, and then you have a 4 or 5 that are consistently injured.
Yeah, I mean that's not what you want. Outside of him, any pick in the top 10, like our top 10, consensus top 10, basically. I would be happy with any one of those guys walking away as Nick. I don't think there's a bad fit amongst them. That's the crazy thing. Is like this is a team, like you said, they have 2 centerpieces they think for the future with KP and Frank, and you could hit 1 through 10 as long as you get a guy there. Like I think there's an opportunity. You know who would be really interesting on the Knicks? Because like the comment section this week has been like, oh, you can't build around him. He wouldn't be a good fit when we were talking about the Hawks last week. But if they were in a position, they fell in the right spot, got a Mo Bamba, then it's like, all right, KP can play the 4. That's a position that he likes to play because Mo would be our center. Right. And we're not necessarily building around a defensive center. Yeah, you're our defensive center, but we've got KP, who's an also big, who can
is defensive but is offensive as well. So it's not like we have to build.
He's
just
an all-around player.
Yeah, he's an all-around player.
That was the weirdest description.
But like Mo Bamba could be a good fit for the Knicks as well if they rose in the lottery and got maybe like a 3 or a 4.
Well, I think that's one thing that makes Bagley so interesting for the Knicks, at least in my mind, is probably a prospect that's super interesting.
But would you play Bagley at the 5? Or would you play him at the 4 and do what Dave said, move KP to a position he doesn't like playing?
I don't think it really matters. I think offensively you can just find spots for him because offensively he's going to be playing more where a 5 would play.
Yeah,
and KP would be playing more where a 4 would play. And then defensively you can just make the switch.
He just doesn't play defense. I mean, who cares?
Yeah, and that's but that's the thing.
But then you have
does.
no one on. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, Kristaps has.
So
great
you'll
reach.
be able to hide some of that because Marvin Bagley's not good defensively at all. Like terribly.
Teams abused him every game during the playoffs, during the tournament. But that's the thing is like, do you want to take a guy with Kristaps who has the mobility to play outside and shut down stretch 4s and stretch 5s and force him to go inside and be more of a rim protector? Like, I don't know. I mean, it gives them a different look. I'm not saying if it's necessarily going to be better than what they have right now, because Kanter is not exactly known for his defensive prowess, but he still has come a long way from where he started, where it was just an absolute joke to have him on the court for defense. But I don't know. I think Bagley, just the intensity, the energy he brings, and the quickness. There's the ability to learn defense there. I believe. I don't think it's a Ja situation where this kid is just like he ain't doing it.
I think it's more like a Cat situation.
No, Cat physically is better than Bagley, I think. But Bagley's no slouch. So
yeah. I mean, like physically, I mean, Cat's
that's
just
what
bigger.
I'm saying. Like he's just
quicker,
bigger, longer, and
But then again, I mean, we've seen that, and again, you could have all the physicals,
tools,
and I mean, look at DeAndre. I mean, you just might not be able to play defense because either you don't care, or you're not able to play defense for some reason.
Ain't gonna do it.
But I think again with the Knicks, you can go many different directions, and then that's obviously going to affect their free agency. And this team has some money, especially if they're able to somehow unload Joakim Noah's contract. This could be something that you look at this team, and again we're saying that they're probably a couple pieces away from the starting lineup. And if that means Frank's at the 1, Tim Hardaway's at the 2, you still just need to fill the 3 and the 5. If you're able to fill the 1 or you're able to fill the 3 during the draft, then you just have to fit the 1 and the 5 or the 2 and the 5. So the 1 and the 5. So I mean, again, there's a ton of different ways the Knicks can go. It's just really about making sure that you're able to fit the right pieces. I'm saying at least culturally, because if you're not a great fit culturally in New York, you're going to get absolutely torn apart. So I think you have to look at strong-willed players, strong-minded players, and that's why I look at a guy like Miles Bridges, has been through a lot at Michigan State, has had a great coach in Tom Izzo. I think that could be huge right there. Marvin Bagley being a part of Coach K's system could be a great fit. Luka, if they're somehow up at that position to take him, he's shown a lot of maturity. He's a true professional. I think that could be something super interesting. But then maybe going away from players like Mo Bamba, where I'm not saying mentally he's not there, but a guy that hasn't been put in a ton of pressure, a guy that had a lot to deal with in the Texas program. But again, is it enough to where he's mentally strong enough to handle New York? And if he's not able to produce right away, and they're expected to win, especially if they get a big free agent splash, will be able to handle it. So I think the biggest thing with the Knicks is a lot of the players that are in this draft, and especially in the top 10, will fit their mindset or fit their scheme, but you got to find a player that's at least smart and at least going to be able to fit the scheme. So that's why I look at, like I mentioned, Miles Bridges and then Colin Sexton as well, because we look at that 3-on-5 situation. And again, he's been with Avery Johnson, who's been in the league as a coach and a player. I think that those two have the right it factors to really fit in New York. Same with Trae Young as well, just because he had so much pressure on him and has dealt with a ton of media already.
Yeah.
Throw him in New York, I think he's going to be fine. But with the Knicks, do you think this is probably the last draft that they'll have in the top 10, especially if they have a good year next year and KP's able to stay healthy? Do you think that they hit the hit on this draft?
Top 10, yes, but I still think they could be a lottery team next year.
Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah,
top 10, yes, this could be the last one, but you could be 11 or 12 next year, so it's not that big of a difference.
Yeah, I think there's still a lottery team. I mean, it's the East, like you said. Anything can happen where they waltz into the playoffs somehow.
They could be the 76ers, and
we
can't expect the 76ers.
No, but I'm saying like not. Oh, they're not going to make the playoffs, and then yeah, they do. Or like the Bulls last year.
That would
Yeah, I probably expect them to be in the same general range next year. You know, in between 7 and 12 is probably my best bet. I think they won't be the worst team in the league. But there's enough talent on this team to carry them through.
If they are nailed in at 9, do they move up? Do they try to move up to get a guy that they need, like a Bridges?
That's the question. What are you moving to get up? I mean,
what are you giving up to move up?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Probably futures. For sure. I mean, there's not a lot of players.
I was gonna say
I'm not selling my future to move up just for like a Bridges or something.
Bridges is the ultimate 3-and-D player, but if
they're one piece away, then why not sell the future?
Then I'll wait. Next draft is going to be just as loaded as this one. I'll wait for next year.
One piece away. Every team thinks they're always one
New York.
piece away.
You can't wait.
Yeah,
they're a LeBron James away.
I say that team sucked for how long? Like they've been waiting all their lives. I ain't going to that.
The one thing that I do think would be insane though for New York, just in general, the city.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if the Jets and the Knicks both took Oklahoma players? Baker Mayfield and Trae Young coming to New York.
I feel like Ricky's really trying to sell me on Trae Young to the Knicks as like the best answer.
I was trying to do that.
He brought it up, and I'm like,
a little bit.
Could you imagine if that just for a city of New York, the most polarizing Oklahoma players this year, both come to the city at the same time?
I don't know.
I think that'd be really cool. For
I don't think it matters.
Is New York
Oklahoma
big
would care more than
Sooners
New
fans?
York. Yeah, it would be an Oklahoma thing. It wouldn't be a New York thing. Nobody from New York would care.
I think it would be a thing in like NFL, NBA talk.
Nah. I mean, Oklahoma, where they have no other news, like that's some pretty big stuff.
They might say like
on.
Which one's gonna be better, like which player.
Yeah, which rookie's gonna be better.
Yeah,
we'll compare different sports.
Final thoughts on the New York Knicks and their draft prospects. Anything that you really want to stick out? Are you sold on Trae Young, Dave?
I mean, you guys are making a compelling case. If he's available
at
9,
like if he's at 9, why not?
You
if
hide
he's at 9, why not?
You hide Frank's deficiencies on offense. You hide Trae's deficiencies on defense.
I think that would be lock me in for Trae Young. If he's available at 9, I got him there. If he's not, I'm looking. If Trae's gone and Mikhail's gone, I'm going wild card on this shit. I'll go like Shea jumps into the conversation.
And like, I don't want to say this because it's kind of like there's always one of these in every draft, but I kind of feel like if they slot in at 9, there's really a can't miss. They can almost take any.
Well, here's the thing:
they could take a point guard, they could take a small forward, they could take a big. And you could be happy with that pick at 9.
But also, they might be able to fill what they need, but they might pick the wrong player because there's so many players that fit that mold. Like if they take Shea and they pass Colin Sexton
pops off,
and if Colin Sexton becomes like the Donovan Mitchell, you're screwed.
Barring we get a Papa John situation from the Knicks here, which I don't think they will, but we didn't think the Knicks or the Kings would either.
Even if their pick doesn't work out for them, they could just send him down to the Hawks for a couple years and pick him up on a fully loaded contract, get him back after he came out of the hyperbolic time chamber, lock it down. There
we go. That's where we're going to end it for the segment and also for the podcast. Dave Oster with the bringing the Atlanta Hawks in.
Yep.
Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the podcast. Tell us who you think the biggest or the best fits for the New York Knicks in this draft are. Let us know in the comments down below. If you listened on iTunes, big shout out to you. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars. The camera went dead, but we're almost done anyways. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars on iTunes. The Primetime Podcast, the Rick and Johnny Podcast, the Fast Break Podcast, the Onside Kick, and the new Outcast. And since we're at it, a new episode should be coming out this weekend, so definitely check it out on the YouTubes. They talked Final Four. They talked
Bulls,
Bears,
Masters.
So check Buzz and Juice out over there. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get up. We're over 10K due to you beautiful people.
We're almost at 10.2.
There we go. So that's a big shout out to everyone there. If you're listening on Buck Talk Radio, huge shout out to you as well. And don't miss anything from MVP by checking out mostvaluablepodcast.com or head over to patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast if you want to support us in a different way. But anyways, for Dave Oster, for Rick Widmer, I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next time.